Hello, it's me, Sarah Vine.
And it's me, Andrew Pearce. We are our old sparring partners.
Yes, and here we are for a new edition of The Reaction.
It's in a new form.
In a new format, available now not only on YouTube, but also wherever it is you get your podcasts.
Because we are a podcast too.
You can't stop
That makes us very modern.
very modern.
Well, it makes me very modern. Well, we're watching, Sarah, Downing Street as speculation reaches fever pitch.
Fever pitch. Well, it has been at fever pitch since about sort of 7 o'clock this morning when
Yes.
my phone started going off and people were
Yeah.
asking, are we generally going to have a general election?
I didn't believe it at first,
Yeah.
but it became pretty obvious when we knew the cabinet meeting today was at 4 o'clock because cabinets leak.
And also, I have to say, I had been hearing rumours about July for a while. I think I
Yeah.
put it in my column about a month ago.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that things are big. One of my friends who's a civil servant sent me a picture because David Cameron's supposed to be in Albania or somewhere today, isn't
Yeah.
he? Anyway, the welcoming committee was like a building with a gigantic photograph of David Cameron on the front of the building, and she said, you're not going to skip that party unless it's really serious. And he's turned around and come back.
Yeah.
I think the fact that the Foreign Secretary has rushed back from his quite important meeting.
Yes, and the Chancellor cancelled a major interview
Yeah.
this evening, and Grant Shapps was flying out to Ukraine, the Defence Secretary, all cancelled. All giveaways. They think they can manage these things, Number 10, and keep it quiet. It's impossible. And of course, there are rumours that the podium that will be from which he will make his statement, of which we've seen rather too much in the last few years, Sarah, that it had been moved in Number 10, and then someone realised, that's going to give the game away.
Presumably they've had to shave a few inches off it.
For Rishi, yeah. No, and he'll probably have his big heels on.
Here we
I
go.
was right. Here
Doors
comes
opening.
the Prime Minister.
Here comes the PM.
He's wearing a blue tie, white shirts, one of those smart, irritating suits where the trousers never seem to really fit. Let's have a listen
I
to
hope
what
he
he's
said
going to
something
say.
to eat.
Yes.
In the last 5 years, our country has fought through the most challenging times since the Second World War. As I stand here as your Prime Minister, I can't help but reflect that my first proper introduction to you was just over 4 years ago. I stood behind one of the podiums, upstairs in the building behind me. I told you that we faced a generation-defining moment, and that we as a society would not be judged by some
He's
government
talking about
action,
COVID in his time as
but by the
Chancellor,
small
when, of
acts
course,
of
Sarah, he was a
kindness
very
that we showed
popular
one
Chancellor at
another.
Exchequer. Easy to be popular,
You met that
giving money
challenge.
away.
Absolutely,
And then some.
furlough.
And I have never been prouder to be British. And when I introduced the furlough scheme,
Yeah.
I did so not because I saw a country simply
He's
in
just
need of
reminding
desperate
us all
help, albeit
Of
we
his
were,
record.
but because I saw a country whose future hung in the balance. I could be bold and trust in the tens of millions of you at home that you would rise to the moment, or I could accept the inevitable.
He's speaking
millions
rather well,
of
I
job
think.
losses and pick up the
There he
pieces.
is.
In truth, it was no choice at all. I have never and will never.
Have you noticed he's
leave
going
the people
grey?
of this country to
Yes.
face the
Well,
darkest
they all
of
do.
days
They
alone.
all do.
And you know that.
They look
because
older
you've seen
and
it.
greyer.
Well, it's a huge
As I did then,
responsibility.
I will
Massive
forever
job.
do everything in my power to provide you with the strongest possible protection I can.
He works an 18-hour
That
day.
is my promise to you. Because for so many of us, it's easy to forget the scale of what we've been through. We were hit by a pandemic that upended normal life. Who would have thought that the government would ever tell us how many times a day? we
Also,
could
he
leave
was
our homes?
very
Then,
against
just as we were
lockdown.
Yes, he
recovering
was.
from
Yeah.
COVID,
Unlike
Yeah, that's
Keir
why I've
Starmer.
always been very
Putin's
had a
invasion of Ukraine,
bit of a
your
soft
energy
spot for
bills
him.
And he had
spiraling.
big reservations about
Yeah.
closing down our
Office
schools,
above
which should never have been
to
closed
restore
in
economic
hindsight.
stability.
Agree.
Economic stability is the bedrock of any future
He's getting
success.
quite wet.
Yes.
Whether that is
No
rising
brolly.
wages and good jobs, investment in our public services, or the defence of the country. And because of our collective sacrifice and your hard work, we have reached 2 major milestones in delivering that stability,
And what are they?
showing that when we work together,
Inflation?
anything is possible. Our economy is now growing faster than anyone predicted,
Who is this
outpacing Germany,
idiot?
France, and the United States.
Playing
And this
some
morning it
song.
was
They
confirmed
they
that
can't help
inflation
themselves.
is
This
back
is
to normal.
this is called
This
normal.
So
means that
disrespectful.
I know.
It's so disrespectful.
It's disrespectful to the country
Even
because
if
the
you
country
don't think
wants
he's
to
the
hear
right man
it.
to run the country,
Plan
it's
and
just so
priorities
rude.
I set out are working. I recognise that it has not always been
They've
easy.
lost the argument because they
Some
do
of you
this.
will only just be starting to feel the benefits, and for some, it might still be hard when you look at your bank balance. But this hard-earned economic stability was only ever meant to
And
be
also,
the beginning.
why haven't the police
The
stopped that?
question
I know.
now is how, and who do you trust to turn that foundation into a secure future for you.
And they're playing
your family,
D-Ream, Things Can
and our
Only Get
country.
Better, the Labour anthem in 1997.
Moment for Britain to
Pathetic.
choose its future.
Here we are. Here's the key.
To decide
Choose the
whether we want to
future.
build on the progress we have made or risk going back to square one with no plan and no certainty. Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to
Done it
request
already.
the dissolution of
Thought he
Parliament.
might have.
The King has granted this request, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July.
American Independence
This
Day.
election will take place at a time when the world is more dangerous than it has been since the end of the Cold War. Putin's Russia is waging a brutal war in Ukraine and will not stop there if he succeeds. That war has also made it all too clear the risk to our energy security. In the Middle East, the forces of Islamist extremism threaten regional and ultimately global stability. These tensions are exploited by extremists who seek to undermine our values and divide our society.
Good speech.
Here at home,
Very good speech.
China is looking to dominate the 21st century.
And this
by
is,
stealing
he's
a lead in
projecting himself as the international
And
statesman, the
migration
man with
is being
experience, Keir
weaponized
Starmer.
by hostile
A safe
states
pair of hands.
that threaten
Exactly.
the integrity
Yeah.
of our
Yeah.
borders.
Because he's been around a
These
long
uncertain
time.
times
Starmer's never been a
call for
minister.
clear plan
Only been an
and
MP
bold
since
action
20...
to chart a course to a
And he's
secure
not surrounded
future.
by the most
You
dazzling
must
team.
choose in this election
He's got Angela
who has
Rayner,
that plan.
deputy
Who
leader.
is prepared to
She's
take
going to
the
be our
bold
deputy
action
prime
necessary
minister.
to secure a better future for our country and our children. Now, I cannot and will not claim that we have got everything right. No government.
I think
should.
at some point he should ad-lib and
But I
say,
am proud
things
of what
can
we have
only get
achieved
better.
together.
Yes.
The bold actions we have
Just to
taken.
troll the
I'm
troll.
confident
Yeah.
About what we can do in the future. We've tackled inflation.
So does this mean the
controlled
broadcasters
debt,
have wasted
cut
their
workers'
money
taxes,
commissioning that
and increased the state
helicopter
pension
or
by
plane to
£900?
follow him to Buckingham Palace
Yeah,
because
'cause
he's
it's already
already done
done.
it?
And seize the
I thought he might
opportunities
have.
of Brexit
And you see, that's
to
the
make
thing
this
about the
best
king.
country in the
Nothing
world
leaks.
to grow a business. Put record amounts of funding into our NHS and ensured it is
And
now
the cabinet
training
are
doctors
either
and
left
nurses
by
it
the
needs
back
in the
door
decades to
or they're
come.
still in there.
We've reformed
Well, they were in there at
education and
4.
our
Yeah,
children
and they'll have had to
are
have
now the
handed
best
in all their
readers in the
mobile
Western
phones
world.
because we know what they're like.
We
Little
prioritise
text
energy
to an
security
advisor.
and your family finances
It's July the
over
4th.
environmental dogma in our
I
approach
worked
to
out it was
zero.
July the 4th just from
We fully
from the
funded an
timing
increase in
too.
defence spending
5
to
weeks.
2.5%
Theresa May,
of
7 weeks.
GDP.
God, 7 of the
We
worst
made a
weeks
That's
ever.
decision to
far
invest
too
more
long.
in
Far
local
too long.
transport that you actually use rather than endlessly plough more money into
You haven't got a
HS2.
holiday booked, Sarah, have you?
We set out a comprehensive
No,
plan to
I
reform
long
our
ago
welfare
learnt
system
never to book a
to make it
holiday.
fair
We
for
had,
those who pay for
my
it,
partner and I
as
had to
well as those
cancel
who need it.
2, one because of Liz Truss and one because of Boris. It was a pretty
And we are stopping
damning.
the boats with our
And
Rwanda partnership.
and we've got a holiday in
And
July this
we
year.
will
But at the
ensure
end
that
of
the
July,
next generation
I rang him
results
earlier and
will
warned him, and he said, "Oh
I
no!"
hope that my work
I said,
since I
"It's not
became
about
Prime
just
Minister
about our holiday,
shows that
Russell.
we have a plan
It's about
and
what's
are
good for the
prepared to
country."
take
He said,
bold
"Yes, but
action
I said, "Relax, it's going to be July the 4th."
But it's also about my holiday.
Now,
Put it
I've
back,
stuck
Marlo.
with that plan and always been honest with you about what is needed, even when that's been
And
difficult.
Rwanda, another key dividing
guided by
line
doing what
with
is right
Labour
for our
because they
country,
will vote it
not what
down,
is easy.
even if it's
They'll
working.
rescind it, won't they?
I can't
Yeah.
say the same thing for the Labour Party because I don't know what they offer.
No.
And in truth,
This is the key thing.
Yeah.
I don't
Labour
think
are
you
not
know
ready.
either.
They haven't got
And that's
time
because they
now.
have no plan.
They
No.
won't have a manifesto.
There is no
This has
bold
caught
action.
them complete.
And
I
as
was
a
with
result, the
2
future
members of the
can only
shadow
be
cabinet
uncertain
last
today.
night at a do. They
On the
had
5th of
no
July,
inkling
either
of
Keir
this.
Starmer or
To be
I
fair,
will be
nor
Prime
did I.
I've been
He has
hearing these
shown
rumours for a
time
while.
and
I
time
put it in my
again
column about a month
did.
he will
ago.
take
I know you
the
did.
easy way out and do
Yeah.
anything to get power.
Well, there's been the
If he was
debate.
happy to abandon all
and
the
he's seen it.
promises he made to become Labour leader once he got the job, how can you know that he won't do exactly the same thing if he were to become Prime Minister? If you don't have the conviction to stick to anything you say, if you don't have the courage to tell people what you want to do, and if you don't have a plan,
And of course, there'll
how can you
be
possibly
TV
be
debates
trusted to lead
between the
our
two of them.
country, especially at this most uncertain of times?
And I think it'll be just between the two of them
Over the
because
next few
the
weeks,
Liberals have only got
I
about
will
14
fight for
seats.
every
So I don't
vote.
think they'll
Will
get
Richard
it too.
Tice do
I will earn your
debates?
I
trust.
don't think he'll
And I
not
will
with, won't be
prove
with
to you
him.
that
There might be
only
one with the minor
Conservative
Lee
parties.
Anderson do it,
led
or
by me
Maybe.
will not put our hard-earned economic stability at risk, can restore pride and confidence in our country, and with a clear plan and bold action, will deliver a secure future for you,
This is the
your family,
peroration.
and our United Kingdom.
There it was. Absolutely
he
soaked.
is soaked to the skin.
I mean, he set out his stall, hasn't he? I am the international statesman. I'm the one who's been on the international stage. Look what I did during COVID. Furlough, which was a remarkable scheme, very popular. Quite a lot of fraud in the furlough scheme.
Yeah, but actually, for a lot of people, an absolute
lifesaver.
An absolute lifeline.
And we now know, don't we, from the COVID inquiry, that he was a great sceptic about lockdown in the first place, which, of course, Boris wasn't. Or Boris was a bit of a sceptic, but of course,
Boris was a sceptic, but Boris was sceptic for sort of liberal reasons, whereas Rishi was sceptic for kind of sound financial reasons.
Yeah.
He just always thought, gosh, this is going to be very hard to square.
And the Labour leader, of course, we know wanted longer and longer lockdowns.
Absolutely.
So it's the economy stupid and it's the international scene. Now, a big issue here, Sarah, for my mind, and why he's going early, the Muslim vote, which has traditionally been to Labour, 70%, is fractured by war in Gaza. There is no possibility of a ceasefire with Netanyahu. We saw what happened in Rochdale, where George Galloway won an extraordinary by-election victory. In the West Midlands mayoral election, where poor old Andy Street, the Tory, lost, the Galloway candidate picked up 70,000 votes, about 13% of the vote. That's going to happen in constituencies all over the country. That is going to eat into Labour's vote.
Well, it's going to split Labour's vote.
It
definitely.
is, and I think it will cost them some seats because I think we'll get some of these candidates will win.
Absolutely, and but the Tories, I think, have a worse problem because that not only are they going to have their votes split by Reform, also Lib Dems, because people who are Tories tend to go to people who vote Tory will go Lib Dem, not Labour.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for them. They've got a lot of things counting against them.
But here's another reason why I think he's gone early, because Reform are not in a very good place financially.
No.
They've only got one major donor. He's called Richard Tice. He's the leader of the party. And we've seen from their accounts, he's loaned Reform lots of money. There's been no big donation. There's been no big generous benefactor. And also, they don't have an infrastructure in place to fight a general election.
No, they absolutely don't. And also they can't. I don't think they will get any seats.
No.
I mean, they might get one
I doubt
seat or
it.
something.
I doubt they'll get that.
But all they are really are just disruptors. And I don't know why Tice is doing it. I just assume he's a megalomaniac and just wants everyone to talk about him. You know him better than I do.
He wanted to be the Tory mayoral candidate in the 2012 mayoral election. He didn't even get on the long list. They were never going to put an arch-Brexiteer as mayoral candidate in London, which voted massively for Remain. And so I think he's been fixated on the Conservatives ever since. And one of his deputies...
So it's just revenge?
Yeah, Ben Abee, one of his deputies, says he wants to destroy the Tory party.
OK, well, there you go. Yeah. So
and
that's that.
so if you're thinking of voting for Reform, if you're listening to this
if you're
podcast,
a Conservative and you vote Reform,
you are going to give Labour an even bigger majority.
Exactly.
Do you really want Keir Starmer to have a landslide majority of 100, 150, where he can do what he likes and break all the promises on tax?
But I have to say, I just thought Rishi there did not look like someone who was ready to compromise.
No.
And I think that's a really good, I thought his vibe was quite good.
Yeah.
He didn't look like he was coming out and saying, OK, guys, I've run out of ideas, let's have a general election. He looked like he was someone who was really prepared to fight hard.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a really strong attack from him.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, we've had this conversation, you and I, privately, countless times, but everyone always says, the problem with Rishi is he's too rich. The thing is, what I would say is that he doesn't need to do that job.
Yeah.
He doesn't need... In fact, he needs that job like he needs a hole in the head, actually.
Yeah.
Because he's got plenty of money. He could be having quite a nice life with his lovely lady wife and their two children, doing whatever it is they want to do. But
in one of their many homes.
Exactly. Instead of which he chooses to do this.
Yeah.
And this is not easy, and this is not fun, and this is not fun for your family.
Yeah.
It's not fun for your kids. It's really hard work. It's really stressful. Look at him. He's gone grey.
Yeah.
This is a person who is there not because he's part of some sort of weird kind of political machine. He's there because he wants to be there.
He's got a real public service.
Yes, he does. Exactly.
Almost vocation.
Yeah, he does. And there aren't very many vocational politicians anymore.
No, I agree.
And I think that comes through in his attitude and the way he presents. And I thought he did very well there because there was that, whoever it was who was playing that song. He's very good at just guessing. He can be very focused and just get sticking to his lane and getting on with what he needs to do. And I think people respect that. They may not agree with what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing. A general election is not necessarily. It's a bit it's not as tangible as, oh, I like your policies and I think what you're doing. It's more like, do I like the cut of this guy's jib?
Yeah, and here's the thing, Sarah. We know that Keir Starmer has not cut through. It shows in the polls that the Tories are so far behind, arguably, because they've been so incompetent, divided, and slagging each other off in public. But there is no great appetite for Keir Starmer. It is not like 97.
No,
You and
it's
I
not.
remember
He's not a
97,
Blair.
and there was a huge yearning for
Well, I
Blair.
remember Tony Blair. Everyone just fell in love with him.
Yeah,
They were all
young,
sort of swooning
telegenic,
over him.
exciting.
Exactly. Whereas
A
Keir
brilliant
Starmer-
orator.
Keir Starmer looks like a sort of regional bank manager.
He does, with a really irritating voice, which
Yeah.
counts. And he's got, and I think Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, who will be our first woman Chancellor checker, I think people will find her intensely irritating very quickly, because she will be out there, front and side and back throughout the campaign. And what are they going to do with Angela Rayner? They're really going to wheel her out a lot with all the questions she's got to answer about her own tax affairs and whether she did or didn't mislead on her electoral registration forms back in 2015. Because how many more U-turns are there going to be from Labour?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think this is the key thing. What this will do is it will shine a spotlight on this, Labour administration in waiting. Because until now, we haven't really seen what they're made of. They haven't really been tested. There's been a few argies in the Prime Minister's Question Time, and there's been a few points scored. But at the moment, the polling is just reflecting a general dissatisfaction with the Conservatives. It's not really reflecting a sort of mad passion for Labour, if you see what I mean.
If you stopped somebody in the street and said, those 6 pledges from Keir Starmer,
what are they? Exactly.
Whereas I can still remember some of Blair's education. Snappy, clever. You say it often enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, we saw Wes Streeting, who's the media star of the Labour Party, the media
Couldn't even
darling.
remember what they were.
Couldn't even remember.
I
And
know.
they only came out 2 days earlier.
Yeah. And then he went and sort of made a joke of it on Twitter or X or whatever we're supposed to be calling it.
Yeah.
And actually, do you know what? That's not funny
No.
that you don't know what your own pledges are.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, obviously it's funny, but it's not really funny. It's not something you should really be proud of.
Yeah.
Shouldn't really. And I think, and also the other thing I would say is I think this election is going to be, even more than any previous one, fought online.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be really dirty and really nasty.
We'll also be talking a lot about Rwanda because if they can get a plane in the air to Rwanda and it's full of illegal migrants, let's remember what they are, illegal migrants, that could be a bit of a game changer because Rishi will just keep pointing out that Labour voted against the Rwanda bill 142 times, tried to destroy it in the House of Lords. And Starmer has said, come what may, they're getting rid of it, even if it's being seen to work as a deterrent effect. And we saw the Austrian Prime Minister the other day saying to Rishi Sunak, they're examining
They're thinking
very
about doing the same,
similar
aren't they?
schemes.
Yeah.
And we know from what's happening in Ireland, Sarah, because all the migrants are crossing from Northern Ireland into Ireland because they're desperately worried they might be sent to Rwanda. So it's already having an impact.
Yeah, it is definitely. And I think also, the kind of inflation coming down.
Yeah, good.
But I don't think he's going to fight on that front so much. I think he's going to fight on his record, on his personal record, which actually, is not unimpressive.
He calmed the markets down after the Truss nightmare.
Exactly.
And he completely did. The stock market
He
is at
did.
record high levels now. The pound is stable.
Yeah.
Look, some people are paying a lot more on their mortgages, of course.
Absolutely. But
which
he's
is a
working
problem.
very hard to get that under control.
And I make a prediction there'll be an interest rate cut next month. And it's not going to be gerrymandered by the government because they don't make that decision.
No, it's not their decision.
It's the Bank of England.
It's the Bank of England.
But the inflation fall today was sharp. And so if we get an interest rate cut next month, that will feed into a better feel-good
Well,
factor.
it'll feed into the narrative about his own record and how he is a sort of slowly solid.
Yeah.
Just keep going, do the homework. He does his homework. He shows up. He does. He's not. I mean, you contrast him with other politicians who are all about the sort of shiny, bright thing or the quick soundbite. That's not what Rishi is. He's a very slow, solid person.
So, July the 4th, American Independence Day.
Yeah.
I'd got a blimmin' invitation to a Downing Street reception on July the 4th. I can't remember the last time I got an invitation to a
such a
Downing Street
show-off.
reception. And you know what?
You're such a show-off.
And if Starmer gets in, Sarah, I'm never going to get one again,
No.
am I? And
You
the
never
Downing
know.
Street
They might have to
reception.
suck up to you.
Well, I think the July 4th reception, I think we can assume, is cancelled.
Well, I think probably yes.
And it would have been nice because it would have been in the garden.
It would have been in the
And
garden.
it is a lovely garden.
Anyway.
Actually, I was in the Downing Street garden a few months ago.
Oh, stop telling
Oh,
us
am I
all about
dropping
it.
names?
Honestly,
Am I-
going
am I-
on endlessly about
But you've been endless. You've been
celebrity
loads
friends.
of times
I
anyway.
have to read this out now. You can leave your comments below on YouTube or Spotify, or you can email
And be nice about Andrew.
and be nice for Andrew because he doesn't have any friends.
Nobody
Email
likes him.
reaction@dailymail.co.uk. And if you're not doing anything on the 4th of July, Andrew's at a loose end, so
Yeah.
do feel free to invite him
Yeah.
around to your house for an election party. Or you can leave a voice note via WhatsApp, which sounds so very modern to me. Anyway, the number is
You
077.
don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to do that. 077 96 657 512. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that.
I think you should read it again, that
Do you think
number.
I should? Okay.
Yes.
07796 657 512. And please don't send any rude pictures. Well, unless
Yes.
they're for Andrew.
And
He likes that sort of thing.
We will be back with another reaction because the election
Next
is going
Wednesday,
to.
yes.
Yeah,
and
of
I think
course.
we might do more reactions.
We
because,
might do more because.
we react to things. That's what
yeah,
we do.
yeah. And so the King, his first general election as monarch.
Yes. I mean, I can't imagine.
I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for
Yes.
that conversation,
Yes.
wouldn't you?
I'd love to be in the fly on the wall on all the conversations.
Between monarch and prime minister. Yeah. That's it from us.
Thank you. Bye.